All right, welcome everybody. My name is Elizabeth Nails. I use she, her pronouns, and you are here for the Creative Wellbeing Proposers Conference. And I encourage you to please continue to introduce yourself in the chat as you're coming in, sharing your name, your pronouns, your organization, and something that made you smile today. And we'll go around and just do some brief introductions from what arts and culture staff are in the room. So as I said, I'm Elizabeth Nails and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a program specialist for creative well-being in the Arts Ed division in the Department of Arts and Culture. And I'll pass it over to Megan.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so glad to see such a robust turnout and interest in this intersection of arts and mental health. So I serve as the Assistant Division Director for Arts Education and Youth Development at the Department of Arts and Culture. And something that made me smile today was stepping outside, and it was 10 degrees warmer than I thought it would be, and it just brightened my day. And I'll pass to Jillian.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you all today. My name is Jillian McCarthy, and I am a program specialist with the Department of Arts and Culture. And one thing that made me happy today was, gosh, I don't even know. I'm just going to say being in this space with all of you. So thanks very much. Pass it back.
Great, thank you so much. And I realize I didn't name something that made me smile today, so I'll share that I have a cucumber plant, and my very first cucumber is ripe today. I will pick it after this call in celebration. So thank you for being here. The purpose of our next hour together is to provide information that will help you determine if this request for proposals is a match for your work and your capacity, and if it is, to help you complete the RFP process. We would like you throughout this call to feel free to use the Q&A function. That's located on the Zoom toolbar. That's either going to be at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it pop up, click the More button with 3 dots and it should pop up. If you could put any official questions into the Q&A, that will be wonderful. We'll answer as many questions as we can. If you throw us a question that we don't have a clear or obvious answer to during the workshop, we may hold it and address it in the Q&A that we will publish by June 13th on our website. All right, so to give a little context and background, the Department of Arts and Culture and the Arts Ed division was established by the Board of Supervisors over 20 years ago to coordinate a county-wide effort so that all young people could grow up with the arts. This initiative was first branded as Arts for All, but in 2017, it shifted to the LA County Arts Education Collective to better reflect its focus on collective action to ensure that the arts are a part of every child's growth and development. So from the start, the supervisors recognized that this would require a broad coalition of partners, both within and beyond the arts ecosystem. And we are directed to work with the LA County Office of Education, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Children and Family Services, school districts, and others as key implementation partners. Under this umbrella, the creative well-being approach has been developed, and this is an approach for building communities of wellness, especially for at-promise or systems impacted youth, or those at risk of becoming systems impacted, and the adults who support those youth. The creative well-being is coordinated by the Department of Arts and Culture. Our role is to build relationships, to select partner sites to receive services, to facilitate collaboration, and to contract with arts organizations to provide services to youth and adults. And we do this with guidance and partnership from the Office of Child Protection, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Children and Family Services, the DMH-funded UCLA Prevention Center of Excellence, and the Arts for Healing and Justice Network. So Creative Wellbeing was first launched in 2019. And in this most recent fiscal year that we have our complete data for, we served over 11,000 youth and over 27,000 adults at 71 sites in all 5 supervisorial districts. So far, there's been an investment of $5 million of government and philanthropic funds, and we've contracted with 6 community-based organizations to date. Our current funding partners are the California Mental Health Services Act, otherwise known as MHSA, and the LA County Care First Community Investment, CFCI. So the program outcomes for creative well-being are deeply aligned with our regional blueprint for arts education. The overarching goal is nurturing communities of wellness, especially for at-promise youth and those adults who are supporting them. For youth, we're looking at culturally relevant engagement that nourishes care, belonging, and connection, especially for foster youth and other systems impacted youth. Belonging, as we know, is an essential aspect of safety, and it's a mental health protective factor for both young people and the adults who care for them. For adults, creative well-being embraces a parallel approach so that the well-being, in order to support the well-being of young people, the adults who support the young people need access to resources to attend to their own self and community care. They need to be supported to attend to their well-being and continue, in many cases, to embark on their own journey of healing. So safety and belonging need to be built for all in order for a climate of inclusion and learning to thrive. To provide a whole child approach, we need a whole adult and whole human approach. In creative well-being, arts and mental health are integrated, and by that, we mean that culturally relevant, healing-centered arts integration is the strategy for nurturing communities of well-being. And we take a holistic view of this entire ecosystem of students, their families, caregivers, educators, administrators, staff, front of office, custodial, everybody, security guards, folks in the ecosystem supporting young people, and all the various service providers that come in and out of different either school systems or whatever site we're working at. Cultural equity and community is also a huge part of creative well-being. We're prioritizing increasing access to arts and culture and building on existing strengths to strengthen the net of support and generating as many protective factors as we can around at-promise and systems impacted youth. And these protective factors can serve as a buffer against challenges and risk factors that people are facing, such as mental health concerns, trauma exposure, food and housing insecurity, systemic racism, and the list goes on. So creative well-being services youth and adults through lots of different kinds of partnerships. And we're supporting prevention and or early intervention in mental health in a variety of settings, included but not limited to schools and school districts, Department of Children Family Services contracted sites like STRTPs, those are short-term residential treatment programs, or FFAs, foster family agencies. We're also partnering with county departments that serve youth and families across Los Angeles, such as Department of Mental Health, Department of Youth Development, Department of Health Services, LACO, which is LA County Office of Education, and the library. We also partner with other community sites as we're assigned or approved by Department of Arts and Culture. I'll hand it over to you, Megan, for this section.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So to achieve all these outcomes that Elizabeth just talked us through, the county contracts with community-based organizations to provide the services. CBOs provide services that include planning and teaching artist instructional services and special projects. The contracted CBOs are in close communication with the county staff and are responsible for background clearances, data collection, and regular reporting and invoicing. And a note on the special project services, these can be assigned in addition to the ongoing teaching artist services that are provided to Creative Wellbeing partner sites. And these can include curriculum development, online resource management, engaging youth advisors, work-based learning, visual arts installations, and performances. So assuming you are interested in partnering with the county to provide this work, we're going to now dig into the details of the request for proposals and how you can submit a proposal for a Creative Wellbeing contract. So, basics first. As we've said, CBOs deliver the Creative Wellbeing approach. Through this RFP, we seek to contract with multiple organizations. The service period will begin in November of this year. Contracts will be for 3 years of service with an option to extend an additional 2. And the value of the contracts will vary based on the level of assigned services. And that level can be based on the need of our partners, the capacity of an organization or a partner, just the alignment of needs and partnerships. So I want to take a moment to orient you to what is included in the RFP, and we're going to drop in the chat the link to the PDF document right now. And Jillian might beat me to it, but it doesn't hurt to have multiple links.
Yep, I did it, but that's good.
When you open this document, you will see that you have a 101-page RFP PDF. So there's a lot in there. It has multiple components, and I want to make sure you can navigate them smoothly. First, in the document is the call for proposals, and that's going to outline the requirements of what needs to be submitted in a proposal. And that's the first 20 pages of the RFP package. Page 21 is a table of contents for the appendices to the RFP, and I'll talk you through those appendices. On the slide, you can see some pictures to help you guide you along as you flip through the very long RFP. So first, appendix is going to be the sample contract, and this is a really important part of the package for you to review. It includes the county standard agreement, the standard terms around insurance and liability and county policies. So definitely take time to review that so you understand what it would mean to be a partner to the county. Then is Exhibit B, the scope of work. Now, this is a very important part because this describes what the actual services would be that you would provide and the expectations for how those services would be provided. That section, Exhibit B, that talks about your services, begins at page 62 of the RFP package. Then we have Exhibit C that outlines the fees that the county will pay for the services. And then Exhibit D are all the forms that as a contractor, you would be completing to complete the work. So if that's not enough, after all of that, we have the appendixes for the additional forms that are needed to submit the RFP. So there's a lot of pieces, but take your time to flip through that and read. Okay, next up, the minimum qualifications for those that are interested and qualified are laid out in the RFP section, and we want to take a minute to describe those. There's 3 listed, and number 1 is the one that you really need to pay attention to and unpack. So we're looking for organizations that have a minimum of 5 years of experience within the last 8 years, implementing healing-centered arts engagement in support of mental health promotion. So arts and mental health are already core of your work, and that work has been happening in county, community, school, or other similar sites. And this work should include both professional development to adults and healing-centered engagement for youth. And for youth, we want you to have a broad range of experience. So you want to demonstrate that you have experience in at least 3 of the following age groups listed there. So the littles, birth to 5, elementary age, secondary grades, transitional age youth, and then intergenerational programming can also be where your experience lies. So if you meet all of those requirements, you're going to move on to completing a proposal. The proposal materials that you will submit include 2 parts, 1,000 points for the services section and have required forms that need to be filled out. If some of you have recently applied for our other RFPs, arts and institutions or arts and communities within the past year, a lot of this is going to look familiar, as those are other programs within our department that do similar work. This work, though, specifically is focused on mental health promotion. So that's going to be expected to be threaded throughout all of the answers. And I think passing it back to Elizabeth now.
Thanks, Megan. All right, I'd like to just share a bit more about part 1, services, where the 1,000 points maximum exist. The new additions to the application, as Megan just mentioned, are marked here in green. This is an overview, just to keep in mind, and the RFP really provides more detail on what the answer should entail, but just want to highlight a few things here. With number 2, background experience, do be sure to demonstrate that you meet the minimum requirements here. Highlight your organization's experience in delivering healing-centered and mental health promotion-related activities. Discuss your organizational mission, values, and goals that align with the scope and requirements of the Creative Wellbeing RFP. Discuss your capacity to handle the proposed project, including staff resources and infrastructure. You can introduce your team members who will be involved with the project, emphasize their qualifications and experience. It's lovely to uplift any relevant certifications or training, especially in mental health promotion topics like mental health first aid, suicide prevention trainings, trauma-informed care, etc. And feel free to mention any partnerships or collaborations that enhance your ability to deliver these required services. So for services, part 3, there's, these are the categories. Describe in detail how you'll meet contract work requirements and provide these different types of services. Make sure to read closely sections 12 through 16 of Exhibit B, sample scope of work, to make sure you speak to these in your narrative. And I'll just give one example, like number 1. Partner cultivation and collaboration management. We want to know how you design, develop, and implement plans through a collaborative process. What approaches and strategies do you use to communicate and inform decision-making? What are your best practices for maintaining momentum and navigating barriers? And how do you engage in relationship building? How does that inform your process over time? For services for youth, refer to that RFP again, and the adults. For special services, this part's new, and your response should provide evidence of any relevant experience with any of the service types listed in the RFP under those special project services. So do be sure to read that and to share if those fall under your expertise. All right. Continuing on with services, note that our work sample request has been updated from past RFPs to include both youth and adult, and to include youth adult curriculum samples and youth artistic samples. Please sure to address all of the administrative capacity prompts, and with your quality control plan, ensure that staff and teaching artist well-being is addressed, and explain any training programs that you are providing to staff and teaching artists in mental health promotion, especially, such as stress reduction, secondary trauma, self-care, conflict resolution, etc. As Megan mentioned, there are required forms, and these are embedded in the SM Apply platform. They're pretty straightforward. You just need to make sure to go through all 5 and respond to any questions. Back to you, Megan.
So proposals will be evaluated on the criteria listed on the screen. It's really about their experience and capacity to perform the required services based on the information provided. So proposals will be scored based on a maximum 1,000-point scale. Evaluation of part 1 includes the following score values for each of the 6 sections. Those 6 sections match what Elizabeth just walked us through. When evaluating part 2, the county will be looking at your organization's past performance and legal history. They'll get that information from form 2 and 3 that you complete, and it's going to be information about terminated contracts with the county, debarment records, pending lawsuits and past judgments. So those forms do need to be completed to make your application complete, and hopefully all will be well, and it'll be easy to submit. So to apply, if we can change it to the next slide. So we've talked about what's in the proposal. Let's figure out how to submit this. So all applications, all proposals must be submitted online through the SurveyMonkey Apply portal using the link listed here on the screen. If you're a first-time applicant, you'll need to create an account. And when you get to the website, there'll be a green register button up in the corner, and you'll create an account, you'll verify your email, and then you'll be able to go back to the web page to log in. Once you get there, you will see the 2 parts of the proposal that we've been talking about will be listed out. There's a sample on the right side of your screen that shows what it will look like. The narrative questions that Elizabeth reviewed are all in part 1 services. The 6 areas, statement of interest, background approach, are all listed out and ask you to upload as an attachment your response. So you're going to write your responses in a word processing program and then upload each of those files under each question area. There are page length limits in the RFP, and they're reiterated in the SM Apply to help you keep track. Please adhere to them because it is the whole application can be about 20 pages. So there's a lot of space for you to share your information. The required forms that are listed in the RFP package at the back are all input into SM Apply, so you don't need to submit anything else or upload anything else. You just need to fill out the forms in the application. Up until the proposal submission deadline, which, to reiterate, is Wednesday, June 25th at 5 p.m., any errors in your proposal can be corrected online. Changes can be made. You can say, I don't like that PDF I uploaded. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to replace my answer up until the deadline. Corrections will not be accepted once the deadline for submission of proposals has passed. And just to be crystal clear, it's the sole responsibility of the submitting proposer to ensure that the proposal is received before the submission deadline. Any proposals received after the scheduled closing date and time that is listed here in the PowerPoint or in the RFP timetable, they won't be accepted. So Wednesday, June 25th, 5 o'clock. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Okay. So the event timeline table is included in the RFP, but just to review it here, thank you for joining us today for the Mandatory Proposers Conference. If you have additional questions, please submit them by 5 p.m. tomorrow. That's the cutoff to include them. We will then work to quickly turn those around and release questions and answers by June 13th. So keep an eye on that, and we can put in the chat where we will be publishing that, just so it's clear. Proposals, as Megan said, are due by 5 p.m. on June 25th. We anticipate notifying proposers by September 15th, if not before. And then we anticipate the contract start dates to be October 1st. So things may adjust as we can move, but those are our anticipated timeline. So just wanted to summarize once again the program changes to Creative Wellbeing. If you have had a contract under Creative Wellbeing, or you've been familiarized with the work by learning about it through partners, we are updating our planning and reporting tools to align them with this approach that's an emerging approach that has been evolved since 2019, and we've learned a lot of lessons. So this is an opportunity to improve our tools and systems. We're streamlining our fee schedule based on planning and teaching time. We also are moving over to a monthly invoicing schedule so that we can get money out to organizations sooner. Other program changes. I want to just dig in briefly to something new in our service agreements and our program plan. Our main tool now for creative wellbeing moving forward will be called a service agreement. And this is a shared document for visualizing the shared goals of the assigned site partner. Let's say it's a school district, the contractor, whoever that arts organization or contractor may be, and the Department of Arts and Culture. So this document lays out those goals. It defines the period of service that the contractor is assigned to this site and the maximum budget they have to spend over that service period. So typically that's going to be a fiscal year. It may vary depending on the assignment. And it's an opportunity to list the anticipated groups to be served and the types of services. So it's really a guiding document so that there's clarity of what the goals are, how much money there is to work with, and the time there is to achieve those goals. So that's signed by all three of those groups. And then we have something new called a program plan. And this is the ongoing document that's really about tracking and adding things as the implementation plan comes alive. We know there's always lots of shifts and pivots going on in work with communities and working to reach folks where they're at. So this is a way of keeping everybody on the same page, and it will be used during contractor check-ins to just make sure that everything's in alignment with the budget, the schedule, the goals. Another new thing we have is that special project service agreement. And so if we have a special need that emerges, we will request a contractor to submit a proposal to deliver a specific special project service. We will then agree upon the service agreement and negotiate the terms of the proposal, and then that will be signed and become a formal notice to proceed for any special project. And as I said, the streamlined fee schedule, just to go into this a little bit more, the thinking behind this is recognizing that organizations have unique ways that you have structured payment and fees, and we want to honor the many systems in place. And we hope that this can provide some freedom to operate as you do as an organization. There's planning services. That's for all of the planning and needs. Creative Wellbeing is an approach that takes a lot of collaboration, and we recognize that planning is a part of that and needs to be included in the billing. Teaching artist instruction is for those teaching artists delivering services, and we can do pre-authorized reimbursable expenses. So that is discussed in different contract meetings with the program manager, contract manager, and determined and approved in advance. We also have a 15% project management rate and then a 15% indirect cost rate to cover general operation, administrative expenses, and all of the time of the care and project management for creative wellbeing. Other administrative changes, like I said, moving to that monthly invoice, and that we also have a subcontract services allowance that allows contracted organizations to meet the needs of the program. So if something emerges and you need a subcontractor to add some support to your team, you can do that. It's subject to approval of Arts and Culture and all of the provisions of the contract. So just a reminder, again, The application is due June 25th at 5 p.m. And now we want to move on and make space for some questions and answers. Again, please keep using that Q&A feature in Zoom. It's on the toolbar. If you don't see it right away, check the More button with 3 dots, and you can add your questions there. You also can raise your hands, and we'll get through as many folks as we can. I'm going to stop sharing screen so I can help see and help look at the Q&A. Thank you all for listening to the long presentation.
And I'm watching the Q&A. I'm starting to answer some of the questions in writing. But I think I'll toss you a couple, Elizabeth. Amy wants to know how many proposals will be chosen for this bench?
A great question. We are, the contracts are going to range from size now that we have our special service agreements also. We'll be taking that into consideration, but we're thinking around 15.
Let's see. There's a couple questions that are related. One is, how many hours per month are you anticipating each organization to have? And a related question is, how many hours of planning are billable per month?
Mm-hmm. It's going to vary depending on how many assignments an organization has. So for each assignment, those because creative well-being is a customized approach, it's going to vary. It's going to look different. Some sites are they're maybe organizing an artist residency for one cohort of folks over 6 months. Another might be organizing PD, 12 artist residencies and family workshops and a special event. So that it just depends on what the needs are of the site and also that size of the site. But that's why we've built in that planning time to really honor the labor that goes into whatever is appropriate for that site assignment. I hope that helps.
There are questions related to, is the teaching artist instruction amount per hour per teaching artist? For safety, we teach in teams.
Absolutely. That is per artist per hour. And it is a best practice we also embrace full-heartedly at Creative Wellbeing and encourage groups to have 2 teaching artists in the room for all the reasons that it helps support engagement and safety, etc.
That's a question for clarity. If we are contracted, we will be assigned a site to provide services, and we could potentially be assigned multiple sites or contracts.
That's right. You'll have one contract. Under that contract, you may have multiple sites assigned to you. We have a set of sites we've been working with, but we will be growing our number of sites over time, given the capacity of our contractors, also of our arts and culture staff.
Is it required to use the curriculum shown with the RFP? There's one question. The second question, is there a set hourly wage for instructors and administrative? So
thanks, Megan. I'll start with the curriculum, and we definitely want to see examples of it. But as I was saying, creative well-being is really about being customized and about listening, the deep listening with sites and understanding what the needs are, and then designing something that's going to meet that. We also know that when you're in relationship and relationship centered, you learn things and you want to adapt. You want to add new layers or make a pivot. So we honor that, and yes, we will not be held to only what you provide as a work sample. Thank you. Good question. What was part 2, Megan?
And I think the part 2 was answered. You said the fees for instruction and planning. Did you say that, Laura? Let me find the question again. I keep scrolling. Is there a set hourly wage for instructors and administrators?
Can you take that one, Megan, for 1 second?
Yes.
Thank you.
In Exhibit C, that in the package, the fee schedule is listed out and there are set rates. There's a set rate for planning hours, $120 and an hour, and a set rate for instructional hours of $175 now.
Thank you.
Okay, let's scroll back up to the top. How often do you have a call for RFPs? Every year or every 3 years after contracts are up?
It's so far, Creative Wellbeing is quite a new approach, and we've only had one so far, and that was several years back. So this is an opportunity. Looking at the turnout today, clearly the field has interest in this work, and this is a growing, emerging aspect of the field. So, you know, if we reach a point where we can add resources and capacity, we would reopen the RFP to meet the need and to bring more of this work forward. But for now, this is the one, definitely the one for the next, I would anticipate 3 years.
There was a question about whether you can be outside of Los Angeles County for the RFP. I did answer it in writing, but it came up again, so I'll just verbally say that an organization can be located outside of Los Angeles County. There's no requirement in the RFP saying that you need business headquarters in Los Angeles County. You just need to note that you're demonstrating experience working in sites that are county sites, community sites, school sites, working with populations similar to Los Angeles County, and that you're going to have the capacity and ability to provide services across LA County. Hold for me.
Just catching up.
I'm just going to pop in this quiet moment to remind folks, please help us track the questions and answers by adding them using the question and answer feature rather than posting them in the chat. That will help us make sure that we're answering as many as we can today. And also, if we're not able to get to an answer today, we'll be able to follow up and post them by June 13th. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with some questions again. Kathy asks, does the creative well-being model always have a teaching artist coming into a site, or could it encompass training staff at the site to be facilitators so the practices are embedded and sustainable as part of the site?
It definitely can include both things. We definitely, when possible, have PD that is going to build professional development sessions that are going to build the capacity of those folks to integrate arts into their day-to-day work with folks. Also, it can be a trainer of trainers model or healer of healers. It can look a lot of different ways.
Elizabeth, can you clarify or provide examples of what you mean by providing professional development that would be within the program's eligibility requirements?
Definitely. From the amazing folks who have helped build this approach of creative well-being, this is going to look a lot of different ways and build on the strengths of whoever's providing that PD. I will say that at the heart of most professional developments is going to be an element of self and community care and experiential arts activities that we would allow folks to learn by doing, and by less emphasis on PowerPoints and facts and information, but really about experiencing, reflecting, synthesizing.
There's a question about someone saying, our work is about healing and promoting wellness. but we do not provide mental health training or services. Would we be eligible for this contract? So maybe revisiting the idea of mental health promotion as described in the RFP.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's no specific requirement to be providing some mental health services. I think we take a view that mental health promotion is so interwoven with healing arts, and that artists and culture bearers have been doing this work for a very long time. And it's really about being grounded in the lineage, the practices that you're bringing, and also having awareness of some of the promising practices from the mental health field, being trauma informed, understanding practices for suicide prevention, the current information. All these things really help, I think, artists bring all that they bring, and then for creative well-being, have this added layer that's about nurturing those protective factors and really promoting mental health in an intentional and specific way.
I'm going to blend two questions, and it comes around to the service agreements and the assignment of sites. And there's a question of, say, so we apply and you choose how many hours you get assigned. So a question of who's assigning the work, how much work you might be assigned, and also are sites based on the location of our facility. So time and location question.
Yeah. I think the short answer is yes, Department of Arts and Culture makes the specific assignments, and we'll say, you're assigned to this specific community site. Here's the budget, here are the, the parameters, and then that planning takes place. So yeah, we'll be giving guardrails and specific expectations for what the work would look like. I lost the second part, Megan.
The location. So if I'm located
yes. Yes,
will I get work here?
We're working, of course, throughout the county with a real focus on reaching young people who are impacted by systems, at risk of being impacted. And we know that there are specific areas, priority areas, communities where we want to be bringing these services for cultural equity. So, when possible, if a site is very close to a brick and mortar or your home base, and things align, we take that into consideration. But we also need to go and meet young people and adults where they're at to serve them. So it's the assignments are across the county.
Can multiple formats be offered, such as a combination of in-person activations, classroom-based tools, and virtual wellness sessions?
I'd say these are all wonderful tools to bring to the mix, and that it's really how the shape it will take needs to be rooted in that collaboration, that service agreement. If a site wants virtual services in addition to some other things, yes, that's fantastic. Some sites might say, no virtual at all, please. Or some might say, please, only virtual. So it's going to vary depending on those needs.
There was a request to repeat the hourly for facilitators and to repeat the fee schedule. So it's Exhibit C in the document, and it maps out that planning hours for the organization's time and the teaching artist time are billed at $120 per hour, and instructional time is billed at $175. And then on top of that, since we didn't say this verbally before, there's 15% program management fee to be calculated based on the number of hours being billed, and an additional 15% indirect to cover the just general administration of the services. A question. All of our art therapy programs are co-created with a licensed therapist. Can they be considered teaching artists with our regular artists?
That's a great question. They could definitely fall under the teaching artist rate. And I think it's up, if they are co-facilitating, that makes sense. I think it's up to that, to your organization and the individual to decide if they want to take on that name. But the service they are providing would qualify as the teaching artist instruction.
Someone asks, we have a site identified and secured to host activities and may not have the staff capacity to take on additional sites as assigned. Will we still be considered?
I'd like to answer it, and then Megan, if you want to add anything. This does come up, and I think we're trying to figure out internally how we might have some kind of tool and mechanism for site selection that goes beyond the partners choosing our sites, and we have different criteria for why we're selecting sites. And also they has to align with our funding sources and the interests of those funding sources. So I think that at this point, I would say that in this RFP, we have under the different types of sites listed, community sites as assigned. So it definitely still needs to be assigned, but there's, I think, yeah, I'm gonna just stop there, Megan, and see if you have other things to add or not.
Don't at this moment. Another question from Ping. Does planning time include planning with the community-based organization or the instructional team or both?
With the community-based, do you mean the assigned site? And hello, Ping, I see your face. Yes, absolutely. We know that it's an approach that's rooted in centering relationship building and collaboration. So the time is for all of the things that need to come into play to make that possible. Thank you.
I heard the answer to this. If we are already contracted with school sites, does this county contract impact that? I think the answer is this would be for new assignments, and it does not mean that you can't be working out in the field through other contracts and other relationships. Anything to add to that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that one of the joys of creative well-being as we're introducing this work to sites is they get excited, and whenever they can provide their own funding to hire groups or to create their own approaches that are centering healing-centered arts and artists, they are doing that, and they might continue to do that, I hope. So yes, there is no problem.
You mentioned anticipating 15 awards ranging in contract size. What is the anticipated range of contract size?
I'd say historically the median has been around 75,000 to 200,000. With adding more arts organizations and the special projects, that the lowest contracts might start at 10,000. And if it's for a really specific thing that matches with a contracted arts organization, but typically they're higher amounts with at least one or two sites assigned. And Valerie, thanks for putting in the chat what you did. I see you, and just wanted to uplift that if, love that this could be a place of networking as well for folks who are wanting to collaborate. It's all about the collaboration.
There's just a lot of questions. I'll just scroll back up. Do you have to be an LLC or a nonprofit to apply? And I can say that in the RFP, there is not a specific requirement on what your tax structure is, but it is a requirement to be an organization, and an organization that has 5 years of experience. Okay. Vanessa asks, for school sites, does that include during school and after school hours?
Yes, it can be both.
Okay. Are there any types of arts-based healing experiences or modalities the committee is especially interested in this year? This one's interesting because there is not a committee. So there is not any additional layers of expectation that aren't laid out in the RFP in terms of a modality that would be preferred. Okay, Elizabeth, please reiterate information about the required curriculums. Can we use your samples? Must we create our own?
Oh, I think it's best to uplift your own work if you can. And by use our examples, do you mean from the Creative Wellbeing Curriculum Guide? I'm curious if that could be clarified.
Question was from Linda.
Linda, if you feel like unmuting and sharing more. Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that showing how, because the guide is like how it's described. It's a kitchen, right? It's a bunch of ingredients, and the recipes included in the curriculum guide are really meant to allow folks to cook up their own activities. So I'd say if there's one of those that really speaks to you and you want to put your own stamp and approach on it, I think that would be acceptable if that's what you feel like would uplift your work.
Two questions that are quite similar in their answer. So we're a nonprofit organization serving the community on our site. These include arts and mental health services. Can we not propose to execute services here in our facility in lieu of being partnered with outside organizations? Can we be the partner organization too? And the next question is, if we are a nonprofit school with a strong arts and wellness program that is offered in-house to youth and young adults enrolled in our programs, can you explain what would be needed as a contract?
What do you think, Megan? Should we hold this one, or do you think we can speak to it now?
We can clarify in the writing as well, but as written, this is to partner with assigned sites of the county. So sites that are coming through county department relationships that are being identified by our county partners as the highest need. So it is for assigned sites.
And maybe to give one more piece of context around that Creative Wellbeing is really intended to be a systems change model for county systems of care, so that we want to work within our system to shift it. And so that by selecting those sites, there's purpose and intention around it. If we know there are ripple effects of this out from that focus. So I think that's very much a part of our thinking, and the intention right now is really to get it into our systems.
I think I can answer a few of these quickly. Can an organization indicate a minimum contract value it is willing to accept? And yes, if you'd like to use part of your application to communicate that, you may choose to do that. does an organization have to have an adult component? Because we mostly work with youth 6 to 18. And yes, the organizations that are contracted need to have experience working with youth of diverse ages and an adult component. There's a question about would work in a California state prison qualify, because we didn't specifically list incarceration as a population. And yes, that would meet the minimum requirements as a type of site, an example of a site. There's a couple questions about that are the question about organization versus LLC, sole proprietor. I think we need to answer those in writing to be able to provide a clear enough answer, because they're quite detailed. So we'll make sure to answer those after the meeting. Let's see. If selected, what's the estimated timeline for project kickoff and implementation? So the dates are in the RFP that we hope to have new organizations contracted, all organizations that are going to be awarded a contract, contracted by October 1st, with services needing to start actually October 31st, because the contracts currently end on October 30th. So that is the timeline. That September will be used for contracting and initial planning, with services beginning November. Have we answered how many sites would a contract be assigned, or would it vary? Do we feel that we need to cover that some more?
Yeah, I think it would vary is the answer. And I think at minimum there would be 1 or 2.
Okay, I'm going to read this one and we'll see if we can answer it. It says, under the section proposer's quality control plan, is the answer expected to consist of tracking and data evaluation methods or plans, or also to include standards, expectations, and practices planned to support each of those subtopics? Subtopics being engagement, effectiveness, well-being, capacity, and compliance. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's great if you can speak to both. I will say that we do have our own evaluation tools and guidance for the Creative Wellbeing program. So we have a system in place, but we're excited to know how you think about it, and also what you do on a implementation basis to make sure that things are going as you hope. And if they aren't, how do you navigate those hurdles, or understand what the needs are from the community you're serving, and how you might let that shape the programming.
To sort of answer the questions around individual proprietors or LLCs, I invite you to scan the RFP for the word subcontractor, because there is language about how a contractor of the county can subcontract services with approval. So there may be, that might be answer some of the questions, particularly the question that was about, can a cohort of folks come together and collaborate on a joint proposal?
Mm-hmm. I recognize we are at our scheduled end time. We'll stay on and answer some more questions, and we'll be releasing the recording. I also wanted to uplift that. Appreciate all the collaboration threads in the chat. We will be relaunching our learning community for Creative Wellbeing this coming year, and that's a space where we gather virtually and invite folks to come together for more shared learning around all these things we're talking about, and learning from each other. So I'll make sure that that invitation goes out to all of you. And we also have a monthly session for self and community care for everybody, supporting youth in Los Angeles. Hope you show up there. And we will stay on, but if you need to go, we understand. And thank you so much for being here today. Do you have more questions?
There are a few more, but I think we should answer them in writing so that everyone has access.